Why would you think that that made it okay for you, without any advance notice, to bring this matter before the jury? That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country.
The tension in the courtroom was suffocating. Every pair of eyes was locked on Judge Terresa Miguel, a figure who had swiftly taken control of the chaos that had unfolded before her. The stakes had never been higher. The court was no longer just a place where legal arguments were made. It was the battleground for reputations, careers, and the truth. Blake Lively, once known for her poised and flawless public persona, was now facing a storm that threatened to unravel everything she had built. On the other side, Justin Baldoni, a man who had once trusted his colleague, now found himself fighting not just for his reputation but for justice. The case that began as a simple professional disagreement was now morphing into something far darker. Allegations of sabotage, defamation, and calculated media manipulation were just the surface of what had been uncovered. It was clear. What had initially seemed like a minor setback in a celebrity partnership had become a public spectacle, fueled by scandal and betrayal. Judge Miguel, with her unwavering resolve, had now made it known that she wasn't about to let celebrity status or high-powered legal teams derail the search for the truth. As the hearing resumed, the room fell into a hushed silence. Blake's legal team, visibly shaken by the unexpected turn of events, tried to maintain their composure. Aaron Schack, the lead attorney, cleared his throat and attempted to speak, but Judge Miguel didn't even allow him to finish his sentence. "This is not a press tour, Mr. Schack," she said sharply, her voice carrying a quiet authority. "If you have a procedural objection, cite it. Otherwise, we're moving forward." The tension in the room escalated. The defense was on the ropes, and everyone knew it. Blake's once pristine legal strategy, crafted to protect her from scandal, was now crumbling in the face of mounting evidence. The courtroom felt more like an arena where the fight for truth had turned into a battle of survival. Blake's defense attorney, Aaron Schack, tried his best to regain control of the situation, but it was clear that the tables had turned. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "Your Honor, we respectfully request that you reconsider the admission of these new evidence." But Judge Miguel was already dismissing his argument, her patience running thin. "You've had ample time to present your case, Mr. Schack. Truth will come out whether you like it or not. We will not be swayed by your attempts at PR manipulation." Schack's eyes narrowed. The defense was losing, and there was nothing they could do to reverse the tide. Outside the courtroom, Blake's PR team was already scrambling, trying to control the narrative before it could completely collapse. But their efforts were being overshadowed by the overwhelming legal assault on Blake's image. As the defense floundered, Baldoni's team stood strong, undeterred by the drama surrounding them. Trevor Mencha, the private investigator hired by Baldoni's legal team, had been instrumental in uncovering the damning evidence against Lively. His quiet but determined demeanor had become a source of strength for Baldoni as they continued to push forward in the case. But it wasn't just Mencha's findings that were shaking things up. The case had started to attract attention from major media outlets, with reporters digging deeper into the scandal. The Hollywood Courier and Deadline Legal were publishing explosive articles, each one confirming more and more about Lively's alleged actions. The press, which had once fawned over Blake, was now turning on her, digging into the very fabric of her carefully constructed image. The revelations about Lyman's previous bias and connections to Orion Talent Group had become headline news. Legal analysts from across the country were scrutinizing his involvement in the case, questioning whether his ruling had been influenced by personal ties rather than a genuine commitment to justice. The press, sensing the potential for a massive story, was relentless in its pursuit of the truth. And with each new leak, the pressure on Blake's team grew. Meanwhile, the investigation into Blake's involvement in the sabotage of the mental health advocacy project continued to unravel. The leaked emails, the incriminating recordings, and the internal memos from her team pointed to a calculated effort to destroy Baldoni's project. Blake's influence in Hollywood was undeniable. But now, her power seemed to be working against her as the court laid bare the damage she had caused. Judge Miguel, with her unshakable determination, wasn't swayed by the celebrity status of those involved. Her past experience as a federal prosecutor had given her a reputation for being tough, and she wasn't about to let media manipulation and celebrity connections determine the outcome of this case. In the midst of all this, a familiar face appeared. Tiana Baldoni's close confidant and longtime friend was present in the courtroom. While not directly involved in the legal battle, Tiana had been following the case closely. She had always supported Justin, and now she found herself sitting in the courtroom, watching as the man she respected and admired fought for his career and his reputation. Tiana's presence was a reminder that the case was bigger than just the courtroom. It was about real people, real consequences. She had known Justin for years, and she had seen firsthand the toll that this battle had taken on him. Tiana, who had always stayed out of the media spotlight, found herself drawn into the drama as a silent supporter. As the case progressed, she became an unofficial ally to Baldoni's team, offering moral support whenever needed. The deeper the case went, the more people from both sides began to feel the pressure. Blake's legal team, already under fire for their mishandling of evidence, was now fighting to maintain their credibility. Legal experts were questioning their every move, and the scrutiny was growing unbearable. On the other side, Baldoni's team had gained the upper hand. With the court now fully acknowledging the scope of the evidence against Blake, the tapes, the emails, the leaked strategy memos, they were all adding up. What had seemed like a routine civil case was now a courtroom drama of unprecedented scale. The question was no longer about whether Blake would win the case. It was about how much damage she would sustain in the process, outside the courtroom. A new level of public backlash was taking shape. Social media had exploded with hashtags like #StandWithJustin and #BlakeLivelyExposed trending worldwide. The public's opinion was turning sharply against Blake, and her supporters were growing increasingly scarce. Even in Hollywood, where image is everything, the fallout was reaching devastating levels. In the days that followed, more internal communications were revealed. These documents, which had been buried under previous rulings, were now coming to light. The most explosive of these were recordings between Blake and members of her team, detailing strategies to suppress damaging stories and manipulate the media to their advantage. One of the most jaw-dropping revelations came when it was uncovered that Blake had personally orchestrated a smear campaign against Justin, using anonymous tips and press leaks to tarnish his reputation. The recordings confirmed that she had used her influence to undermine his credibility in the public eye. The case had now morphed into something even bigger than anyone could have imagined. It wasn't just a personal feud between two celebrities, it was about the power of influence, the manipulation of public opinion, and the lengths one person would go to in order to protect their image. With each new day, the layers of deception continued to peel away, and the public was left stunned by what they were learning. As the legal battle continued to unfold, Judge Miguel remained resolute. Her no-nonsense approach was a stark contrast to the media-driven manipulation that had defined the earlier stages of the case. The courtroom was no longer just a legal arena, it was a place where the truth would be fought for at all costs. The fight was far from over. Every new piece of evidence, every new revelation, made it clear that the stakes had never been higher. The court had set the stage for a final showdown, one that would determine not just the fate of the individuals involved, but the very nature of power and influence in Hollywood. As the days passed, both sides prepared for what was sure to be a climactic conclusion. The courtroom was about to become the stage for the final act of this ongoing drama, and everyone was watching. The legal showdown between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni was intensifying with each passing moment. The courtroom had become a battleground, but not just for the truth. It was a war for control of public perception, and every single move mattered. The players had already been established. Blake Lively, the beloved celebrity fighting for her career and image; Justin Baldoni, a rising star who had long believed in the power of authenticity, but was now in the midst of a scandal that threatened everything he had worked for. Blake's legal team, already in disarray, continued to flounder under the pressure of the mounting evidence against them. The emails, recordings, and leaked memos had painted a clear picture of deliberate sabotage. Blake had tried to manage the narrative, but the deeper the investigation went, the more the media and the public started to question her actions. This was no longer just a lawsuit. It was a public trial of her character. Meanwhile, Justin's team was playing a perfect game of defense, carefully unveiling piece after piece of evidence that had been previously hidden. Their objective wasn't just to win the case, it was to expose the manipulation that had been happening behind closed doors in Hollywood, and they were succeeding. The courtroom buzzed with energy as the case had reached a pivotal moment. The tension in the courtroom was nearly palpable. Blake Lively, once revered as a Hollywood darling, was now on the defensive, her every move and decision being scrutinized under the unforgiving glare of the public and the law. On the other side of the courtroom sat Justin Baldoni, a man who had gone from being a rising star to a symbol of perseverance in the face of overwhelming adversity. Each passing day seemed to bring new revelations, and the courtroom was no longer just a place where legal arguments were presented. It had become the stage for a larger drama. The stakes were higher than anyone had imagined. With reputations and careers hanging in the balance, Judge Terresa Miguel, now firmly in control of the case, continued to cut through the haze of celebrity influence and media manipulation. With a quiet but fierce authority, she maintained order and kept the focus squarely on the evidence. Blake's legal team, already on edge, were visibly rattled by the relentless revelations. As each piece of evidence was introduced, their defense seemed weaker and more desperate. Blake's once ironclad defense had started to crumble under the weight of the disclosures. The leaked recordings, emails, and internal memos were damning. It was becoming clear that Blake had been involved in more than just a professional disagreement. The evidence pointed to a calculated campaign to sabotage Baldoni's mental health advocacy project, one that she had actively tried to destroy for her own gain. Justin Baldoni's legal team, spearheaded by Sarah Mason, had presented a new bombshell, an encrypted file containing correspondence between Blake's team and various media outlets. The emails outlined a strategy to silence any negative coverage by planting stories that would discredit Baldoni. These documents weren't just about managing an image. They were proof of a well-orchestrated attack on Baldoni's reputation. As these new developments unfolded, the tension in the courtroom grew to a fever pitch. Blake's defense team scrambled to deny the evidence, but it was clear that the case was no longer about whether or not she had made a mistake. It was about how deep her involvement had gone and whether she had orchestrated a deliberate smear campaign to undermine Baldoni. This is beyond a simple case of professional disagreement. Sarah Mason addressed the court, her voice calm, but full of determination. This is about intentional sabotage. This is about calculated defamation. And now we have the evidence to prove it. Blake's legal team attempted to argue that the leaked materials were either fabricated or taken out of context, but Judge Miguel wasn't swayed. She had seen enough. She had heard enough. The facts were undeniable, and now it was time for justice to be served. Outside the courtroom, the media frenzy was intensifying. Journalists and reporters had descended on the case like vultures, eager to cover every new twist in this explosive celebrity drama. The leaks from within Blake's team were being picked up by outlets across the country. For the first time in her career, Blake Lively's reputation was under siege, and the damage was mounting. Blake's PR team, which had once been a machine designed to protect her every move, now found itself in disarray. As the leaks continued to pour out, sources from within the industry began to distance themselves from her. Hollywood executives who had once seen her as a friend and ally were now silent, and some even began to express their doubts about her integrity. Within the courtroom, the mood had shifted. No longer were the proceedings filled with strategic posturing and celebrity power plays. This had become something much more serious. With each passing day, it felt less like a legal battle and more like the unraveling of a public figure's carefully constructed world. For the first time, Blake Lively was facing the consequences of her actions, and the weight of the evidence against her was undeniable. The new Judge Terresa Miguel had taken a different approach from her predecessor. Where Judge Lyman had been accused of bias and questionable ethics, Miguel had proven to be unyielding in her pursuit of the truth. She wasn't about to let Blake's status or fame cloud the proceedings. She had made it clear from the outset that this case would be about the law, not about celebrity influence. As the courtroom drama played out, Blake's team continued to mount a defense, but they were beginning to run out of strategies. One last, desperate attempt to delay the inevitable came when they requested a continuance, asking for more time to review new evidence. The judge, however, wasn't having it. "We've been more than patient," Judge Miguel declared, her voice cutting through the tension in the room. "This case has gone on long enough. We're not delaying justice any further." With the clock ticking down, Blake's legal team tried to focus on damage control. They knew that even if they couldn't win in court, they had to salvage what was left of her public image. But every move they made was under a microscope, and the public was quick to respond. The hashtag Blake Lively exposed was trending, and it seemed as though every day a new article or post would drop, further eroding her once flawless reputation. Justin, on the other hand, stood firm. He wasn't in this for the fame or the headlines. He had long been a champion for mental health awareness, and now his advocacy was under attack. But the revelations had only strengthened his resolve. He was no longer just fighting for the success of his project. He was fighting for what he believed was right. The legal battle had turned into a personal mission for justice. Behind the scenes, both sides were preparing for what was sure to be a dramatic conclusion. While Blake's team scrambled to shore up their defenses, Justin's team was already working on plans to move forward regardless of the case's outcome. The damage to Blake's reputation had already been done, and now it was about making sure the truth was heard loud and clear. The legal ramifications were becoming clearer by the day. If the court ruled in favor of Baldoni, Blake could face not only reputational damage but also significant financial penalties for her role in the sabotage of the project. The case could also set a legal precedent for how celebrity manipulation of media and public opinion was handled in the future. With each passing moment, the pressure mounted. What started as a quiet dispute between two professionals had spiraled into a legal battle that would define their careers for years to come. The courtroom doors were about to close on this chapter of the drama, but the world outside was just beginning to take notice. The next few days were critical. As the trial continued, everyone knew that the final decision would be a turning point. For Blake Lively, this could be the end of her reign as one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. For Justin Baldoni, it was a chance to reclaim not just his project, but his dignity. The fight was far from over, but the outcome was beginning to feel inevitable. As Judge Miguel prepared for the final ruling, the entire entertainment world watched closely. The case had become more than just a legal matter, it was now a battle for justice, integrity, and accountability. In a world where power and influence often blurred the lines of what was right, the verdict was coming, and when it did, it would change everything.